Chosen one. A movement has already taken place beyond what your eyes can see. And somehow, your life is part of it. This is far more than an ordinary moment or another passing message. There is a quiet but undeniable call surrounding you, as though heaven has drawn near with a purpose that cannot be overlooked. You did not arrive here by accident. Every second has been arranged with remarkable precision because something has already begun. And the way you respond will influence what comes next. There are seasons when God whispers softly to the heart, and there are seasons when his voice carries unmistakable clarity. This is one of those sacred moments, not to fill you with fear, but to awaken your spirit to what has already begun. Scripture reminds us in Ecclesiastes 3:1 that there is a season for everything and a time for every purpose under heaven. Right now, you are standing within one of those appointed seasons. Perhaps you've sensed an unexplainable stirring inside, a quiet conviction, or the feeling that your life can no longer continue the way it has. That is not uncertainty. It is the gentle guidance of God drawing you toward a new direction. This is a rare opportunity filled with grace, a moment where your heart can come back into perfect alignment with his will. Obedience in this season has the power to release what has remained delayed for far too long. If something within you recognizes these words, remain attentive and don't step away too quickly, because what is about to unfold will reveal exactly what heaven is asking you to embrace at this very moment. Listen carefully. Chosen one, these next 24 hours were not placed before you by coincidence. They have been appointed with purpose, shaped with precision, and covered by a love that refuses to allow you to wander without clear direction. Heaven never alters the course of time without meaning, and it never creates urgency without a greater plan. What you are sensing today is not meaningless pressure. It is the unmistakable invitation of God calling you into the next step he has already prepared for your life. It is a sacred invitation wrapped in timing. It is God saying, I have seen enough to know that now is the moment. And before we go deeper, let your response be immediate. Not out of habit, but out of agreement. If something within your spirit is already confirming this word, acknowledge it. Align with it. This is not about performance. It is about participation. Even the smallest act of agreement opens spiritual doors. And for those who have been quietly supporting, giving, and standing with this assignment, understand this. You are not on the outside of this message. You are woven into it. Every act of obedience, every seed sown, every moment you chose to respond instead of ignore, heaven has recorded it. Nothing has been wasted. Now stay with me, because what you are about to understand will change how you see this moment. This is not just a warning. It is protection. It is not just urgency. It is positioning. There is something ahead that heaven is preparing you for, and this window determines how you will meet it. Chosen one. Throughout Scripture, the most defining moments were never open-ended. They were marked by timing. Appointed moments. Windows that carried weight. And as it is written in Hebrews chapter 3, verse 15, today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your heart. Notice the emphasis today. Not when you feel ready. Not when everything makes sense. Today. Because delay is never as harmless as it feels. You know that moment in real life when you feel something isn't right. But you tell yourself, I'll deal with it later. Maybe it was a relationship you knew was shifting. Maybe it was a habit that no longer aligned with who you were becoming. Maybe it was a decision you kept postponing, because it felt uncomfortable to confront. That quiet inner knowing, that is where this message lives. Not in confusion, but in clarity you have already received. God is not speaking to you because you don't know. He's speaking because you do. And delay, when clarity is already present, begins to reshape the heart. Slowly, quietly, almost unnoticeably. What once felt urgent begins to feel optional. What once stirred conviction begins to feel negotiable. This is how spiritual sensitivity dulls. Not through rebellion, but through repeated postponement. But listen carefully. This is why the warning came. Not to condemn you, but to interrupt that pattern before it becomes permanent. Because when God says now, He is not reacting. He is revealing. He is responding to something already in motion that you cannot yet fully see. What feels sudden to you has already been measured in heaven. And the reason this window matters is because alignment is available now in a way it may not remain later. Think about Noah. The instruction came long before the rain. There was time to build, time to prepare, time to align. But the door did not remain open forever. It closed in a moment. Not because God changed His mind, but because the window fulfilled its purpose. Or consider Nineveh, a city on the edge of destruction. Yet one message, one moment of response shifted everything, not because the warning was pleasant, but because it was timely. Their obedience did not just change their outcome, it rewrote their future. This is how God operates. Chosen one. He warns before consequences arrive. He calls before correction becomes necessary. He invites before doors begin to close. And the danger is misunderstanding urgency as pressure. It is not pressure. Pressure comes from fear. Divine urgency comes from love. God speaks quickly because He sees completely. He knows what delay will cost you, even if you do not yet understand it. And this 2-4 hour window is not Him rushing you. It is Him reaching you before the drift becomes distance, before hesitation becomes regret, before what was meant to protect you becomes something you must recover from. This is mercy in its purest form. And here is what you must understand. Anointed one, God is not focused on your past in this moment. He is not revisiting your mistakes or replaying your failures. Heaven is not concerned with what went wrong. It is focused on what has not yet moved. This is about delay, not confusion, not misunderstanding. Delay. You have felt it. That quiet, consistent nudge. That inner awareness that something needs to change. Shift. Release. Or begin. It was not loud. It did not force you. It simply returned again and again, waiting for your response. That is conviction. And conviction does not argue. It vit, but when conviction is ignored, it does not disappear. It waits. And over time, if left unanswered, it becomes easier to silence, not because it lost its truth, but because the heart adapted to resisting it. This is why this moment matters so deeply, because God is interrupting that cycle. He is saying, do not let what I revealed to you become something you bury under delay. You are not being asked to fix everything. You are not being asked to have it all figured out. You are being asked to move in one direction. Alignment. One step. One decision. One act of obedience. Because obedience is not about perfection. It is about direction. It is choosing to move when God speaks, even if the step feels uncertain, even if it costs comfort, even if it requires letting go of something familiar. And yes, sometimes that is the hardest part, because obedience often challenges what feels safe. It may mean walking away from what you've grown used to. It may mean stepping into something you don't fully understand yet. It may mean releasing control in areas where you've held on tightly. But here is the truth. What you are being asked to release is never greater than what God is preparing to reveal and delay. No matter how reasonable it feels, cannot replace obedience. It can only resist it. So, hear this clearly. Chosen one. This is not a moment to wait for a better feeling. This is not a moment to seek more confirmation. This is not a moment to negotiate with what has already been made clear. This is a moment to respond, because what you do within this window will not only affect your present, it will echo into what comes next. And in the next part, you are going to understand something even deeper. Why obedience carries the power to unlock what prayer alone cannot, and how one decision within this moment can shift everything that has been waiting behind the scenes. Chosen one. There is something many people misunderstand about prayer. And this is where your moment becomes different. Prayer invites God's will, but obedience positions you to walk inside it. You can pray with sincerity, with passion, with tears even. But if the step God has already revealed is delayed, you remain aware of the promise without accessing it. And that is where frustration is born. Not because God is silent, but because heaven is waiting on alignment. You may have experienced this in your own life without even realizing it. That season where you were praying for change, asking for clarity, asking for doors to open, yet nothing seemed to move. It felt like you were doing everything right, but something was still missing. That missing piece was not more prayer. It was response. It was that one step you already knew but kept postponing because it felt uncomfortable, uncertain, or inconvenient. This is why obedience carries such weight in the spirit. It is not dramatic on the surface, but it is decisive in the unseen. When obedience happens, heaven recognizes it as readiness, not perfection, not strength, not complete understanding, readiness. And heaven moves swiftly toward readiness. Look at the pattern that has always existed. When Abraham lifted the knife in surrender, provision appeared, not before, not after. In the moment of obedience, the ram was already there. But it was revealed through alignment. When Peter cast the net again after failure, the fish did not suddenly appear. They were already in the water. Obedience exposed what was already prepared. And the widow who poured her last oil did not receive abundance first and then obey. She obeyed first. And the multiplication followed her action. This is the spiritual law that many overlook. Yet it remains consistent. As it is written in Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 1, blessings follow obedience. They do not precede it. God is not withholding anything from you. He is waiting for the alignment that allows you to carry it. So, understand this clearly. Anointed one, your breakthrough is not missing. It is not lost. It has not been delayed by heaven. It is waiting at the intersection of your next act of obedience. That is why this 2-4 hour window matters so deeply. Not because something is being taken from you, but because something is being offered to you. And the only thing that determines whether you step into it is your response. Many people think they are waiting on God when, in reality, God is waiting on them, waiting for the decision, waiting for the release, waiting for the surrender, not to control them, but to partner with them. Because God will not override your will. He honors it. But when your will aligns with His, movement happens instantly. You may have felt like things in your life have been paused, like progress has slowed, like doors have remained closed longer than expected. And it is easy to interpret that as delay or silence. But what if it was not silence at all? What if it was divine patience, giving you time to respond before what is already prepared is released? Because once alignment happens, acceleration follows. And here is where the message becomes personal. There is something specific that has been placed before you, not a general idea, not a vague direction, something clear. It may be a decision you have avoided, a conversation you know you need to have, a habit you need to release, a step you need to take even though you do not feel fully ready. You have revisited it in your mind more than once. You have felt that quiet pull that does not go away. That is the place of obedience. And the reason it feels significant is because it is connected to something greater than the moment itself. One step can unlock years of waiting. One act of surrender can release what effort alone could never produce. Obedience shortens journeys. It restores momentum. It opens doors that logic cannot explain. And God is not asking you to do everything at once. He is asking you to do the one thing He already revealed. That one thing carries more weight than you realize because it is tied to alignment. When you move, even with hesitation, even with uncertainty, heaven responds, not because you earned anything, but because you aligned with what was already set in motion. And this is why the warning came with urgency, because this moment is not empty. It is active. There are things shifting around you right now, opportunities forming, outcomes adjusting, protection positioning itself. And your obedience determines how you step into what is already unfolding. This is not about fear. It is about awareness. Awareness that your decision matters. Awareness that your timing matters. Awareness that this moment is not replaceable. Some doors open once. Some instructions carry power only within a certain window. And while grace is present now, it is inviting response, not delay. But hear this as well. Chosen one. This warning is not proof of rejection. It is proof of relationship. Heaven does not speak this clearly to those it has abandoned. God does not knock on doors. He intends to walk away from. The fact that you are hearing this, feeling this, recognizing this means you are still within reach of grace. And grace is speaking loudly right now, not to accuse you, not to shame you, but to bring you back into alignment before anything is lost. So, remove the weight of fear from this moment. This is not condemnation. This is correction with compassion. This is God stepping in before delay becomes distance, before hesitation becomes something you regret later. And now the question is simple but powerful. What will you do with what you already know, because heaven has already spoken? And in the next part, you're going to understand something even deeper. How this moment is not just about avoiding loss, but about stepping into protection, clarity, and a level of breakthrough that only obedience can unlock. I chosen one. What you are standing in right now is not just a moment of decision. It is a doorway. And like every doorway that heaven opens, it carries two things at once: invitation and consequence. Not consequence as punishment, but consequence as outcome, because every response shapes what comes next. Every act of obedience or delay quietly determines the direction your life begins to move. And this is where many misunderstand the nature of God's warnings. They assume it is about avoiding something negative when, in reality, it is about stepping into something protected. Obedience does not just unlock blessing. It shields you from burdens you were never meant to carry. It redirects you away from paths that may look normal on the surface, but carry weight beneath them that your spirit was not designed to hold. Think about those moments in life where you ignored that inner prompting, when something felt off, but you moved forward anyway. Maybe it led to unnecessary stress, broken trust, wasted time, or a lesson you had to learn the hard way. Not because God wanted you to struggle, but because the warning was there and went unanswered. That is not judgment. That is misalignment. And now God is giving you something different. He is giving you clarity before the outcome. He is giving you awareness before the consequence. He is giving you a chance to step into protection before anything unfolds. That is mercy, because most people do not realize how many things God has already prevented in their lives. The doors that never opened, the opportunities that fell through, the connections that faded. At the time it felt like delay, like rejection, like confusion. But later you look back and realize you were being protected. You were being redirected away from something that could have taken more than it gave. And now this moment is functioning the same way. There is something ahead, something that could either become a breakthrough or a burden, depending on how you respond. And God, in His love, is not allowing you to walk into it unaware. He is placing light in front of your next step, so you do not move blindly. This is why urgency is present, not to rush you, but to align you before the next phase begins, because what is coming next in your life is not small. There is movement happening, things are shifting, and whether you feel ready or not, transition is already in motion. This is not about if something will change. It is about how you will meet that change, and obedience prepares you to meet it correctly. When you align, confusion lifts. Decisions become clearer. Your steps begin to feel ordered instead of uncertain. That pressure you felt earlier, it begins to transform into peace. Not because everything around you changes instantly, but because you are no longer resisting what God has already spoken. Resistance creates tension. Alignment creates clarity. And clarity is what you need for what is ahead. Because what God is leading you into requires awareness. It requires discernment. It requires a heart that is responsive, not delayed. And this is why He is addressing this now before anything else unfolds further. There are people who wait until things fall apart before they listen, until consequences arrive before they adjust. But you are not being placed in that position. You are being given insight early. You are being positioned ahead of what is coming, so that you can move with understanding instead of reaction. That is what makes this moment so significant. It is not reactive. It is preventive. And prevention is one of the greatest forms of grace. Chosen one. There is also something else you must understand. When you respond to God in moments like this, it does not just affect one area of your life. It creates a ripple effect. Alignment in one decision begins to influence other areas. You did not even connect to it. Doors that seemed unrelated begin to shift. Opportunities begin to appear in places you were not looking. Peace begins to settle in areas that once felt unsettled. Because obedience does not operate in isolation. It realigns your entire direction, and suddenly, what once felt scattered begins to come into order. This is why Scripture says in Isaiah chapter 1 verse 19 that if you are willing and obedient, you will eat the good of the land. Notice the order again. Willingness, then obedience, then access. It is not distant. It is not delayed. It is immediate alignment that releases present reality, not someday. Now. And this is where the 2-4 hour window becomes even more powerful. Because this is not just about avoiding something negative. It is about stepping into something prepared. Something that requires your agreement in order to be revealed. God is not asking for perfection. He is asking for willingness. A willingness to move. A willingness to release. A willingness to trust. Because once willingness is present, obedience follows. And once obedience happens, what was waiting begins to move toward you. You may not see everything immediately. You may not understand every detail. But you will feel the shift. You will recognize the difference. Because alignment always produces a sense of clarity that cannot be manufactured. And this is what God is offering you right now. Not pressure, not fear, but clarity, protection, and positioning. So do not minimize this moment. Do not treat it like something you can return to later, because moments like this are not repeated. They are responded to. And the beauty of this is that God is not standing at a distance watching what you will do. He is near. He is present. He is guiding. He is waiting with patience. Not to judge your response, but to meet you in it. The door is open. The direction is clear. The invitation is real. And in the next part, you're going to step even deeper into this. Because this moment is not only about your decision, it is about relationship. About the God who is still knocking, still calling, and still choosing you even now, chosen one. Beneath everything you are feeling right now, the urgency, the awareness, the quiet pressure, there is something deeper that cannot be ignored. This moment is not just about a decision, it is about relationship. Because at the center of every instruction God gives, there is always an invitation to come closer. Not just to act correctly. This is what many miss. They hear the warning. They feel the urgency. But they interpret it through fear instead of understanding the heart behind it. But hear this clearly. God does not speak with urgency because he is distant. He speaks with urgency because he is near, because he cares enough to intervene before you move further in the wrong direction or miss what he has prepared. This is why the image in Revelation chapter 3 verse 20 is so powerful. It says that he stands at the door and knocks, not force, not breaks in, knocks. That means there is gentleness even in urgency. There is respect even in correction. There is love even in warning. And right now, that knock is not distant. It is present. You have felt it in subtle ways, in moments of quiet reflection, where something inside you whispered, "This needs to change." In those pauses where your spirit became still, even when your surroundings were busy, in that intention you could not fully explain. But you knew it meant something. That was not coincidence. That was God drawing near. Not to overwhelm you, but to reconnect you. Because distance in your life did not happen all at once. It happened gradually. Through delay. Through distraction. Through choosing comfort over alignment in small ways that seemed harmless at the time. And now God is not condemning that distance. He's addressing it. He is saying, come back into alignment while the door is still open. This is why this moment carries such weight. It is not because you have wandered too far that this moment has come to you. It is because your heart is still open to His voice. You are still in a place where transformation is possible, where a single decision can bring complete realignment before temporary struggles become lasting consequences. If heaven had grown silent, that would tell a different story. But heaven is not silent. You are still hearing, and every word you receive is evidence that your relationship with God remains alive. Take a moment to reflect on someone in your own life. Even when distance has grown between two people, as long as they continue to communicate, hope still exists. Every conversation leaves room for healing, for understanding, and for rebuilding what once seemed weakened. That is exactly where you stand with God today. He has not stopped reaching toward you. He continues to speak with patience. He continues to call your name. He continues to invite you closer. This 24-hour window is not meant to create fear that time is slipping away. It is an invitation to restore fellowship while the door remains open. More than anything else, God longs for your heart to be fully united with His. Obedience matters. But obedience without relationship was never His ultimate desire. True alignment is born from walking closely with Him. When obedience and relationship become one, life begins to change in ways that feel effortless. You stop struggling to force every outcome. You stop wondering whether each decision is the right one. Instead, your path becomes clearer. Your heart grows steadier, and peace replaces uncertainty because your direction is no longer shaped by human reasoning alone, but by the presence of God leading you. This is the gift being extended to you today. It is greater than simply making the right choice. It is an invitation to restore the connection that changes every part of your life. Once your heart is aligned with God, your perspective begins to shift. You recognize opportunities with greater wisdom. You discern what truly belongs in your life and what does not. You begin to notice warning signs before they become burdens, because His guidance is now shaping the way you see, think, and move each day. You begin to walk with a kind of awareness that protects you from what you cannot always predict. This is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming responsive again, responsive to His voice, responsive to His direction, responsive to the subtle ways He leads you that cannot always be explained, but can always be felt. And this is why the enemy often tries to distract you in moments like this, not necessarily through obvious chaos, but through small things that pull your attention away. Busyness, overthinking, doubt, the feeling that you can come back to this later, because delay is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet. It sounds like, I'll deal with this tomorrow. I need more time. I'm not ready yet. But what you're feeling right now, that clarity, that awareness, that inner knowing, this is the moment where response carries power. Not tomorrow, not later, now. Because the longer something is delayed, the easier it becomes to ignore. And what once felt clear begins to feel distant, not because it changed, but because your attention shifted. This is why God is bringing you into focus again. He is clearing the noise. He is drawing your attention back to what matters. He is reminding you that this moment is not ordinary. It is sacred. And within this sacred moment, there is a simple but powerful invitation. Return, not in shame, not in fear, but in honesty, return to the place of alignment. Return to the decision you have been avoiding. Return to the direction you already know is right. Because God is not asking you to prove anything. He is asking you to respond. And when you do, something begins to happen immediately. Peace begins to replace that inattention. Clarity begins to replace confusion. And you begin to feel a shift not just around you, but within you, because alignment always starts internally before it becomes visible externally. And this is where everything changes. Not because the world around you instantly transforms, but because you are no longer resisting what God has already spoken. You are walking with it. And when you walk with it, you begin to see what you could not see before. Doors that once felt hidden begin to reveal themselves. Decisions that once felt complicated become simple. The path that once felt uncertain begins to feel directed. This is the power of relationship. This is the power of alignment. And this is why this moment matters so deeply. Because it is not just about what you will do, it is about who you will walk with. And in the final part, you are going to step into the fullness of this message. Because what is on the other side of your response is not just clarity or protection, but acceleration, restoration, and a shift that will impact every area of your life. Chosen one, now you are standing at the edge of something that cannot be undone once it begins. Not in a way that brings fear, but in a way that carries weight. Because this moment, this exact window you have been given, is not just about alignment. It is about acceleration. When you respond to God in timing, things do not just move. They move quickly, not chaotically, not overwhelmingly, but with a divine order that feels almost sudden compared to the stillness you may have been used to. This is what many do not expect. They think obedience will lead to slow change, gradual progress, distant results. But there are moments, appointed moments, where one decision creates a shift that seems immediate, where what felt delayed for so long suddenly begins to unfold all at once. Not because it was just created, but because it was already prepared, waiting for your alignment to activate it. You may have lived through seasons where everything felt paused, where prayers seemed to echo without response, where you wondered if anything was really moving behind the scenes. But what you did not see was that heaven was not inactive. It was waiting for a point of agreement, waiting for the moment where your will and God's instruction would meet. And that meeting point is where acceleration begins, because once you say yes, truly yes, not partially, not delayed, things begin to reposition, paths begin to straighten, what felt blocked begins to open, and even what seemed unrelated begins to align in ways you did not expect. This is not coincidence. This is the natural result of divine alignment. And along with acceleration comes something just as powerful: restoration. There are things in your life that delay has touched. Opportunities you feel you missed. Time you feel you lost. Moments where you look back and wonder, what could have been different if you had moved sooner? But hear this clearly. Anointed one, God does not restore based on your timing. He restores based on your alignment. As it is written in Joel chapter 2, verse 25. He restores what was lost. Not partially, not symbolically, but fully, in a way that reflects His power, not your limitation. And the moment you align, restoration is no longer distant. It becomes active. This is why this message carries hope, not heaviness, because even if there has been delay, even if there has been hesitation, even if there are things you wish you had responded to sooner. This moment is still open. This window is still active. And what God can do within alignment can recover what delay could not. But there is something else that comes with this responsibility, because what is on the other side of your obedience is not just for you. It will affect how you show up in your relationships, how you move in your purpose, how you carry what God entrusts to you next. This is why God addresses alignment before release, because what He is preparing to place in your hands requires a heart that is ready, not just willing to receive, but willing to steward, and you are being prepared for that now. This is not random. This is not casual. This is preparation meeting opportunity. And the decision you make within these 24 hours will not just determine what you receive, it will shape how you carry it. Chosen one. Let this settle deeply within you. You are not being rushed. You're being rescued. Rescued from unnecessary delay. Rescued from outcomes that could have been avoided. Rescued from walking into something unprepared. God is stepping in before anything unfolds further. Not to take control from you, but to guide you into what is already yours to step into. So remove every thought that says, "This is pressure." This is not pressure. This is precision. This is God aligning you with a moment that has been waiting for your response. And now the invitation is clear. Choose alignment over comfort. Choose obedience over delay. Choose trust over hesitation. Not because you are forced to, but because you understand what is at stake and what is available. Because what is ahead of you is greater than what you're holding on to right now. Greater than the comfort you are protecting. Greater than the uncertainty you are avoiding. Greater than the fear that has tried to slow you down. And once you move, even if it feels small, even if it feels quiet, even if no one else sees it, heaven responds. Clarity begins to settle. Peace begins to rise. And you begin to feel something you may not have felt in a while. Momentum, not forced, not rushed, but aligned. And when you are aligned, you are no longer trying to make things happen. You are walking into what has already been set in motion. This is the shift. This is the defining moment. The season of uncertainty is coming to an end, and the season of intentional action is beginning. Do not allow this opportunity to slip by unnoticed or assume it will present itself again in the same way. Divine moments are not meant to be postponed. They are meant to be embraced with faith and answered with obedience. Now, chosen one, the next step belongs to you. These 24 hours are not an invitation to fear or endless analysis. They are an invitation to respond with confidence, to move in faith, and to bring your life into harmony with God's direction. Choose the path that leads to life. Choose faithful obedience. Choose to walk with God. This is not merely the conclusion of a message. It is the confirmation of a moment heaven has already arranged specifically for you. You will not leave this encounter as the same person who first arrived. Something has already begun to change within your heart. Vision has become clearer. Purpose has become more defined. A decision now stands before you, carrying greater significance than you may fully recognize. This is your opportunity to come back into perfect alignment, your opportunity to return wholeheartedly, your opportunity to answer God's invitation without delay. Chosen one, may every step you take from this point forward be directed by His perfect wisdom. May every chain of delay be broken from your path. May confidence replace every trace of hesitation. May deep peace settle where uncertainty once tried to remain. Let these next 24 hours become more than a reminder of what could have happened. Let them become the moment when everything truly began to change. Heaven has witnessed every part of your journey, every silent struggle, every hidden battle. And now heaven is responding with grace, guidance, and purpose. Move ahead with the assurance that God is covering you, leading you, and positioning you for everything He has already prepared. If these words have spoken directly to your spirit, declare your faith by writing, "I choose alignment," in the comments below. Stay connected and continue listening, because heaven is still unfolding fresh direction for your journey. Chosen one. Walk forward with unwavering faith. Answer God's call with willing obedience, and step boldly into the future He has prepared long before you arrived at this moment.